Retro now.
RetroZap.com proudly presents a podcast beyond your experience, beyond your imagination. The Dune Cast. With your hosts, Joe Tavano and Rod Johnson. Featuring news, analysis, and discussion of everything in Frank Herbert's Dune universe. And beyond. Welcome back, friends, to the Dune Cast. My name is Joe Tavano, and joining me, as always, is Rod Johnson. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Joe. How about yourself?
You're doing pretty good. You've done better. Rod has COVID right now. He's on the upswing, but he's
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
So everybody, practice your social distancing. Wear your masks. Take this seriously. It's not fun.
Yeah,
It's not fun.
No, it's not, and I have given Rod full permission to tap out whenever he needs to, because we love him, and we're not gonna make sure anything happens to him on account of this podcast. But otherwise, we have a big night tonight. We have a really special show here. We have our first guest in literally 4 years, and I don't think this is gonna be the last guest by far, because I think it's time to start engaging more with the Dune community, because we're gonna have a really special year coming up. We thought we'd be seeing Dune in a couple of weeks, but it turns out that's not the case. What happened there? I think we all know. But we are joined tonight by our good friend Marcus, the editor-in-chief of Dune News Net. How you doing, Marcus?
Hey, great to meet you guys, and yeah, really happy to join you guys tonight.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here, man. This is going to be a good show. So much has happened in the world of Dune over the past couple of weeks. Action figures have shipped out. I got my graphic novel. Did you get yours, Rod? Did you get your hardcover?
I did get my hardcover graphic novel. Talked off air. I've got my figures now, and
yeah, unbelievable.
They just continue to get more money out of me.
Yeah, every time I think I'm out there pulling them back in there, I keep on getting more and more, more and more Dune merch, and it's exciting. And Marcus is here to talk a little bit about some of the bigger news we had about Dune and its release. We all know that it's been pushed out to 2021, but today, the day we're recording, it's December the 3rd, and what we've discovered is that Dune is going to be released on streaming platform, the HBO Max, the day and date of release in theaters, which is a massive shift. And Marcus, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, because this was a big press release, and it not only affects Dune, but it affects a whole slate of movies as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge. I wasn't expecting an announcement to come at this time, but basically, Warner Brothers has announced that their entire 2021 slate is going to go to HBO Max on the same day as the theatrical releases. And
wow.
Of course, Dune was specifically called out, as well as all the films like The Matrix 4, Suicide Squad, and others. So this is basically on the day of release in cinema, people in the US will have a choice to watch the film on HBO Max streaming as part of the membership.
So that's only in the US, huh?
For now, that seems to be the case. HBO Max specifically mentioned that it would be included as part of membership in the US, and we know that HBO Max is still expanding to other territories. So
yeah.
There's going to be the expansion to Latin America in the middle of 2021. And the expansion to Europe, they also announced that also in 2021, though exact dates haven't been shared.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know a lot of Dune fans live outside the States as well, so it's kind of a bummer for, the larger Dune fan universe out there. But, guys, VPN is a thing. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say with that one. But if you know, you know.
It's sort of like a Disney Plus sort of situation where Disney Plus launched first in the States, and people in Europe couldn't enjoy The Mandalorian streaming officially until the second season. So yeah, it is really unfortunate. Hope that they do find some way around it in terms of potentially licensing these movies, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. I hope it does open up worldwide. So this has big implications for the theater industry in general, and also the streaming industry. I mean, I think that this really is very much like, I feel like every couple of months we hear it's the nail in the coffin of the theater industry, but this move really does mark a major sea change in the way films are being distributed, wouldn't you say?
So I think that this is it's going to be a big change. I think one thing important to call out though is that at this time Warner Brothers is saying that this is a 2021 specific plan. So it's not the case that this is going to be exactly how things continue in the future. But yeah, it does. This is going to have far-reaching implications for the industry as a whole. Also thinking about how we evaluate the success of movies in the future. Now it's all about those box office numbers, especially domestic. But with this, I think the studios are going to have a very different perspective of how they actually evaluate whether a movie like Dune is a success or not.
I think this is good for Dune. I really do. And I think this is good for Denis Villeneuve. Could you imagine if Blade Runner 2049 was not based on box office? The accolades it would receive, it wouldn't have been considered, a quote unquote bomb. And I don't think Dune would be a bomb. I think Dune is going to be a huge movie, and if it were only in the box office, it would be a big success. But I think that this is good. I think that not judging a movie like Dune based on the box office numbers could only help it, and fuel more excitement, and kind of take away any negative that could come from a snarky press, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I think also in terms of any concerns about further delays, because we're running in a very uncertain situation. I think with this announcement, they've basically taken that worry away. We know that the movie won't be delayed any further, and I think having it available to everyone from day one, as you're saying, that this will give everybody the experience to take part in this. This great experience for both Dune fans and fans of cinema in general, who are going to have the chance to enjoy this film, whether they are actually able to make it to a movie theater on that day or not.
Yeah,
I think this is also going to help the Sisterhood show draw a wider audience as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch Dune at home, and then you see then that this show also based on the movie, like, hey, I actually really enjoyed that movie, not being familiar with the source material, but I did enjoy the movie. Oh, let's give this show a try.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more opportunity for cross-pollination there. I really haven't heard much about the Sisterhood series since the announcement back in 2019. Marcus, have you heard much more movement on this series since then?
No, I mean, it's pretty much been dead silence. We got some announcements earlier this year about how they were going to start filming later this year. Like, there was actually a date mentioned, November 3rd, but seems like from people close to the project that information may have changed a long time ago. And they're just not announcing any new information while there's still all this uncertainty. But it's basically at this stage we know that it has been delayed based on discussions that we've seen in recent interviews with people involved, like with Kevin J. Anderson. He spoke at the Texas Book Festival, and the tone he was taking was that this is very much a project that's ongoing. That he's involved, and potentially that they'll end up writing books in the era of this show. So it doesn't sound like by any means that this is off the table. So I think it's just a case of this being delayed. But again, we don't have any details, and I don't think we'll hear anything for a while.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Marcus, let's talk a little bit about your site. Let's talk about Dune News Net for a second. How long has Dune News Net been around, and kind of what's your major mission there? I'm really curious to know a little bit more of your story with starting the site and your Dune fandom.
Yeah, sure. So we're actually a really new site. So we just hit our 3-month, or we're just about to hit our 3-month mark.
Oh, congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, so it's been a very interesting year, like considering everything else that's going on. So basically with the Dune movie coming up, and I had also been changing, going through changes in my other job. So I decided, okay, like we have the perfect opportunity to launch a new site and bring Dune news to fans, of course, existing fans, and there's going to be a lot of new fans coming in the next year due to the movie and everything else going on. So yeah, we were inspired by sites covering other franchises like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, and we didn't really see something like that to that extent for Dune. So that's where the idea came from for Dune News Net. So basically, we used our COVID year basically to invest in this gig and launch the site on the day that the trailer was released. And yeah, it's been good reception. We've really enjoyed talking with the people in the community. It's been really active on various of the social media channels, including on Twitter and the other locations where Dune fans gather. So yeah, it's been really rewarding. In terms of Dune, so I've read Dune when I was I would say like in primary school.
Wow.
So I was in the school library, and I was looking for stuff to read. I'd of course seen like movies like Star Wars before, so I was interested in science fiction. And then the Dune book caught my eye, and I remember borrowing that, and then like within a couple of weeks coming back and getting Dune Messiah and then Children of Dune. But then at that point, I think the library didn't have the rest, so like that was it for a while. But yeah, it's always remained an important part of being a fan for me.
That's amazing that you took to Dune young. I'm not ashamed to admit that I was an adult when I first came to Dune, only because people have been dissuading me from reading it ever since I was young. And I'm talking hardcore sci-fi fans, all dissuading me from reading Dune, and especially the sequels afterwards, which blew my mind, because when I read it, I loved it. And then I read the sequels, and I loved each sequel more and more. So it was just, a much different experience than anyone had ever prepared me for. And that might be a little bit about why I love it so much, I think. Yeah, so that's really that's really a great story. So you've come to us with some other information, specifically about some screenings that had happened over the past, I would say, month or two. And this is really astounding. It really shocked me to hear that there were actual test screenings of Dune that have gone out into the wild. There are people out there, guys, who have seen Dune already on the big screen. A few select people. And yeah, Marcus here has some great information about that, and has written some extensive reporting over at Dune News Net. And we want to I just want to pass the torch over to you and hear more about this, because I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, sure. So I wrote a report on newsnet.com. Although there was just so much information, I just kept it high level there. So I thought that this would be a perfect idea to have a more in-depth discussion with both of you guys. So yeah, basically to summarize, on the October 28th, so already more than a month ago, there was a test screening of the Dune movie that took place in Arizona. So basically, and when you said selected, actually, it sounds like these weren't a selected audience. So it wasn't like they said, okay, let's go and find a group of Dune fans and show them the movie. These were basically people who had signed up for advanced screenings of movies in general. So these are people who are enthusiastic about movies and cinematic experience, and they were invited to see a movie, but they weren't told what it was going to be. And apparently, when people arrived in the theater and they learned that they were going to be seeing Dune, they erupted in cheers. And the same reaction was at the end of the movie, with people cheering and applauding as the credits rolled down. So yeah, it's really amazing to hear that. So I think, first of all, the takeaway is that these are fans of cinema, not necessarily Dune fans, and they reacted really enthusiastically to this screening of Dune, which we'll get into that. But this is not necessarily the final version of the movie that we'll see come October 2021. But it sounds like it was pretty much getting there.
Wow, that's real. What are you gonna say, Rod?
Well, one of the things I like, and you just talked about it there, was the fact that when I was reading these, reactions, was these were people that didn't know what they were seeing, that maybe, they're not like us, a little familiar, I guess we could say, with the source material, but that they loved the movie for what it was. And so it makes me happy. It makes me think that, as fans, we've talked about it, we're worried, like, are we going to get the second movie? But it sounds like it's everything we hoped it would be. And the fact that it's appeals to the average moviegoer is great.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the selection process for the audience. Do you know anything about how these people were chosen, or was it kind of a random thing? I'm just so curious about that, because when it first came out, I'm like, why weren't the fans involved? But obviously, the strategy was to go after non-fans of Dune to kind of get a general reaction. So I'm just curious if you knew a little bit more about that.
Yes. So in this case, it was a screening squad that organized the screening. But there are many companies like this that handle the screenings for the studios.
Mm.
That was actually something that came up in the interview from the summer with Denis Villeneuve about that the test screening towards the end of post-production is like a really important step for him to learn about the reactions. Like he was talking about how when he's sitting in a room with people and seeing how they react to the film, you can see the strength of the film and the weakness of the film. So it sounds like this was a plan for Dune for the beginning, and of course this is standard practice for many other blockbuster films.
Right.
So it's really a case of people signing up for opportunities for these screenings, and then I don't have the details on how the section works, but I assume it's partly based on the location as well. So you sign up, and then there's going to be a screening near you, and if you qualify based on the interest that you filled in, then you'll be invited.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. I wasn't aware of that. I remember back in college, I got a couple of free screenings here and there, but it was very much not this scientific approach to it, where different interests are presented, and they're looking qualitatively at who you are, what your interests are, and why you're being selected. I suppose I wonder if there were issues with the film, or if it generated a bad reaction. I wonder what the options are then. I assume that most of it would be left to editing at that point, because they've already shot they've already had their main shoot. They've already done reshoots as well. I mean, I guess if it were a bad reaction, you could end up with something like New Mutants, where it would be recut and maybe shot piecemeal over a long time, and this wouldn't see the light of day for a long time. But back to the real world, this got a great reaction, which is very, very exciting. Not that I don't think anyone here thought it wouldn't, but it just further validates our trust in Denis Villeneuve and what he's put together with this film. I can't remember a film that has been praised more highly before it's been released than this one. From the cast to the media to the fans, I think everyone is backing this one and really wants it to succeed. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's an interesting question. I mean, at this stage in the process, there's potentially, as we can go into, like, some of the visual effects may not be fully complete, and they may be using this test screening as a way to test potentially different versions of some scenes to see the reaction. But it's right, all the shooting is completed. So it's more about finalizing, perfecting the movie, maybe choosing to go with one version of a scene over the other. Yeah,
that's for sure. So just to remind everyone, this is the first half of the first movie, of the first book, rather. And so there's a lot to decompress there. Was there any indication of where the movie ends? Because we have our theories and ideas, but has any information at all leaked out about where the movie might end and what we can expect from the second film?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Before going into that, just wanted to check, have either of you seen the alleged leaked script from 2019?
I have avoided it on purpose.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, so basically there was a version of the script. We don't know how early of a version it was, but it came from basically authentic sources, and a lot of people have validated. A lot of people who are close to people involved with the project. So basically, in that script, there was a specific scene, which was the scene with Liet Kynes. And before I go into that, do we need to mention anything about spoilers?
I think we should probably keep it spoiler light. I mean, this is a very old book at this point. I mean, I think that the actual plot of the book, I think we can discuss freely. But when it comes to anything about the film itself, if there's any variation from the book, probably want to keep that under wraps.
Yeah. So I'll just talk about what I mentioned in the article itself. So in the book, and I hope everybody who's listening has read the book at least a few times.
Same here.
Liet Kynes has a very specific final scene in the book. So that's when he's dying on the sand from thirst and is having the hallucinations and hearing the voice of his father. So that scene has been is significantly diverges in the movie, and this was already reported on several sites as well. So this test screening basically confirms that. So it basically confirms that this different scene was there, and this gives us more confidence that leaked script was real. At the same time, there were some other minor changes, like for example, the script mentioned Gurney Halleck singing when he was playing the ballad, and that didn't happen in the test screening. So that again may be different versions of the scenes or scenes that weren't there yet. But basically, going to the ending, that script had mentioned that the book would basically, or the movie would end at the end of part 2 of the book. So basically, we know that the original Dune novel by Frank Herbert is split into 3 parts, sometimes called books themselves, and between part 2 and part 3, there's a time skip, and allegedly the movie was going to end there. But based on what we learned at the test screening, that wasn't the case. So the viewer reported that the movie ended shortly after the fight between Paul and Jamis. So significantly earlier than that. So what's your reaction to that? What do you think about that, as if that is the final ending point?
Rod, what do you think about that? Because I think that's what we had talked about a lot.
We talked about the possibility of that one, and the other one we'd also talked about was Jessica taking the water.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Where we ended.
Eileen, yeah, we both kind of landed more to that is where it would end. But I mean, this seems like a good place to end the movie. I read a little bit about this, so I don't want to get too spoilery, but I do like if what I read is how this movie ends, I'll be fine with it. I'll be more than fine with it.
Yeah, it doesn't. You know, they could stop the movie wherever they want to. It doesn't really matter to me because I know they're going to make a second film. I think that everyone who really is kind of talking about the possibility of a second film not being made is, I think there's a lot of drama being stirred up around that. The plan has always been to make a second film. And I don't see any indication of that not happening. It would have to be a real big wrench thrown in these plans for them to stop at half a buck, right? Well, first of all, let me ask you, Marcus, do you agree with that, or is there something maybe we're not seeing with that plan?
With the plan for the ending or for the second film?
To make a second film.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear from the people involved that they're really passionate about it. I mean, from the interviews with Denis Villeneuve, you can see that this is a very important project from him. And from the beginning, he wanted to make 2 films. That was basically a condition. So I think from people involved, there's no question. One thing I'm wondering, and that was maybe an interesting question from today's news, that does the whole situation with the pandemic and Dune coming to or Dune basically going to be streaming alongside being shown in theaters. Do you think that increases the risk of a second part not being made?
I think it actually increases the possibility of it being made. I think that without the pressure of a box office success, I think that the plans to make more content that is shown first on HBO Max and then really making streaming platforms a priority in the plan, I think that only increases the engagement and the green lighting of such projects like Dune, because the pressure's off to return massive amounts of money at the box office over the course of like 72 hours. Which let's think about how ridiculous that goal is. When you're trying to make art, you're trying to make something monumentally beautiful and impactful and emotional and exciting and adventurous. And you need to distill all that into a few hours and then make sure the entire world goes out and sees it within a very, very short window to return the right money. I mean, it's a ridiculous formula. It's not sustainable. And we're seeing it's not sustainable as theaters shutter around the globe due to a pandemic, and the world is just embracing streaming as the future. So I think there is much more opportunity for Dune to thrive in a streaming first civilization, as it were. And I hope that we don't stop at a second film. I hope that this continues on for more productions of Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, Be Still My Heart, God, Emperor of Dune, and much more. Well, I don't know. What do you think, Rod?
We've talked about it before. I would love for them to continue, and I agree. I think the fact that if you're not, I don't know how they figure the numbers for money and return on investment, but I feel like if you take out the movie theater and you're not worried about, can I draw people in to see a movie, that are going to pay $15-20 a ticket, or can I get people to watch this at home? Does this movie excite people enough that they'll sign up for our streaming service and we can get the revenue that way? Then I think it makes it more likely that we do get movies down the line. I don't think we'll get so lucky to have Denis direct them all, but it would be nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what were you gonna say, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the ideal scenario would be that Dune takes off. It's a huge success at both the box office and streaming. They greenlight the second movie, but then I'd love to see Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, continued as a HBO style TV series, like really high budget, 6 to 8 episodes per season. I think that would be the perfect treatment for Dune. I mean, if you think about it, there's just so much to fit in a film. You have so much restrictions, which I think nowadays there's maybe less pressure to fit within that restriction when we've seen the success of all these streaming hits.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. That in the streaming world, we are not tied down to making the cinematic formula. We could easily see a shift to series for a number of these book adaptations, which I'm all for. I think the more hours of Dune we get, the better. What I don't want to devolve into is something that feels low budget. I don't know how much budget will be dictated for any of these, and I don't particularly care as long as it looks good and feels good. The budget of it all doesn't really matter to the end user unless you see it, right? You don't want to see the tape on the special effects, right? Which is precisely why the miniseries, 20 years on, really haven't held up so well.
Yeah, those painted landscapes, they don't look as great in the high def. They didn't look great in normal def. They really don't. They really didn't parlay well into high def.
Yeah, I can dig them, but I mean, I do dig them, but I can't. I don't go back to watch them that much,
Yeah, and I wonder if you were talking about like series.
Oh, you go, Marcus. You're our guest.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you look at the trailer from the re-release of the box sets or the re-release for the Dune miniseries, Children of Dune miniseries. I mean, you can see the CGI is really dated. So hopefully, I mean, the miniseries themselves, I have to say I've really enjoyed those, but hopefully we're now getting a definitive edition.
Yeah. Oh, that Children of Dune miniseries ended where things just started to get good. Yeah, as listeners of Dunecast know, I mean, I think God Emperor of Dune is my favorite book of all of them. What's your favorite book, Marcus?
Yeah, I have to say for me, I'd probably go with Children of Dune, because at the time when I was first exposed to the series, that was basically seen as the conclusion to the trilogy, and it basically subverted all the expectations and told a story that I'd never imagined before. So I think that will always be a favorite. But yeah, definitely enjoy God Emperor of Dune and the rest of the series and some of the expanded universe as well.
Yeah, it's taken us a number of years to get through the actual the Herbert run on Dune, and where we're coming to a close on the second part of Chapter House Dune itself, and it's we really go through very carefully every single chapter and go through and pick apart literally everything about these books and really get into deep discussion about everything about them. And yeah, it just astounds me every single time I reread these books just how dense and interesting they are, and literally like nothing is that no one's ever imagined anything like these. And yeah, I think it's really phenomenal. What do you think of the focus right now on the first book and the fandom that is growing up around the film right now? Do you think that Dune has legs beyond this first book with a large fandom? Because as we all know, Dune Messiah flips everything on its head, and things really do go in a much different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that now if Dune does become a huge success, that people will be open-minded and to experience something completely different. I think there are a lot of existing Dune fans, and I think basically by bringing in new fans, we can sort of get them enthusiastic about those next books. But yeah, I can definitely see Dune continuing past the first book, and I really hope it does. I don't want it to be a case where we're stuck with every 20 years, just making a new adaptation of the first book. I think there's so much beyond there to explore.
Yeah, I almost look at it as incomplete. I don't think that Herbert ever really intended for Dune to be one and done, or if he did, when he was done with his first book, he clearly realized there was much more stories and ideas to tell, and in his subverting of the entire first book with the rest of the series, he clearly opened the door to much bigger ideas. So, I kind of say that Dune Messiah was The Last Jedi decades before The Last Jedi, in its subversion of the classic hero trope. And I'm just so curious that all of these Timothée Chalamet fans out there that are really into Dune right now, I'm really worried that they're gonna just become haters if a Dune Messiah film were made.
And I don't know if we'll get a Dune Messiah film. I do think that I do think the possibility of a streaming show is definitely on the table, especially with HBO. It seems like they after Game of Thrones, they've obviously been looking. They've been doing the Golden Compass series, and I think they're pushing this property. I mean, we've talked about it. I don't know, Marcus, did you get your McFarlane line of figures?
No, I haven't gotten those yet. They do look good, and it's really interesting to see the difference in size, like how huge the Baron looks when standing next to the other characters. So I'm really interested to see if that's going to be like to size, like if he's actually going to be that big compared to the other people in the book, in the movie.
I did see. I think I read in one of the screenings that they said that the Baron is a massive figure.
Yeah.
But back to what I was saying, we've got this line of toys. They did the Funko. They've got the graphic novel we mentioned, the Atreides, House Atreides, prequel comic, board game, another board game, video game. This doesn't feel like a one and done every 20 years movie situation. It feels to me like, they're really going to try and push this franchise forward.
Yeah.
Like they have big plans for it, and it's going to take like a massive flop for this movie in order to derail some of these plans they've got going.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to allow a flop to happen. And I think the strategy to move to streaming just really confirms that. There is no way they will set this movie up for anything less than success. Because I think that Warner Brothers and Legendary have a lot invested in it. The Dune fans have a lot invested in it, and the director and everyone involved, there's just so much investment and love into this film right now that there's no way it's going to be a success, a failure. It will only be a success. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and one of the things when earlier today when they had released the HBO Max teaser for the announcement, I was just smiling by how many times they cut back to Dune. And
yes,
I think they really believe in the film. I mean, they literally cut back to the scene 4 times, and you had the voiceover from Timothy. So it was really cool to see that.
Yes, I noticed that the teaser for it was very Dune heavy. Just to let you know, we haven't forgot about Dune. This is really going to be a tentpole HBO Max offering. Even though it's going to become later in 2021, this will be. Oh, that actually raises a question. Do you think this will change the release date? Do you think they'll move Dune up at all? I didn't even think about that. Are we still beholden to a December 21 release date? Because now
October.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it October?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we still beholden to that though, or could they move that up even further?
Yeah, that's one of the things I was thinking about as well. I mean, I guess now with this surprise announcement, anything's possible. Although I'm more inclined to believe that they're going to keep things spread out so that they keep people subscribed to the service for a longer period of time. They don't just want to throw everything in there and then like people unsubscribe later in the year. I think they want to make it clear that like HBO Max is like a long-term service. They're going to keep adding great content and build a base of subscribers that way.
Yeah, I just started. You go, Rod. What are you gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say, we were talking earlier, like it's not available overseas yet. So I don't know when you would move it up. If you wanted it to be a summer tentpole movie, I guess you could
Mm.
do that. But there's not going to. I don't foresee theaters being open that soon. Too many. Like I know we've got.
Yeah.
I live in a college town of over 200,000, and we're down to just one theater now, and it's not even guaranteed to come back.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point. The
if
plan.
you are still aiming for box office, I think you don't move it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think box office is completely deprioritized. It will run in box office, but I don't think it's the primary vehicle where people are going to watch Dune. I do think it's going to be HBO Max first. I mean, as long as I'm vaccinated and COVID has subsided, I will be in a theater, but I'll probably watch Dune the same day, about 3 times as well. You know what I mean? It may, my first viewing of Dune may not be in a theater. Believe it or not, that may be a second or a 5th time. Who even knows? So yeah, I think that the plan is really starting to reveal itself with the date pushback, not just about COVID, but getting things set up with HBO Max as well, and making sure that it is really rocking and rolling. It is hitting on all cylinders. Maybe they have the Roku deal all sealed up by then, God willing, because I'm watching Lovecraft Country on HBO Max right now on my tablet. And well, that's fine. It's not great.
It's not ideal.
No, it's not ideal. It's not. And I really want to make sure I get that on my nice screen. So with if COVID dies down around May or June in the U.S. and we got the HBO Max all set up on Roku, and God willing, the international versions of HBO Max open up as well. This could be big. This could be very, very big for Dune, and it's really, really exciting. Yeah. Marcus, thank you so much for coming on. Did you have any other questions you wanted to ask us? I know you had a few. You said you had in your back pocket over there.
Maybe we can close with 2 points about the test screening.
Yeah.
So going back to the ending. So I think that there are several scenarios, like either the ending I mentioned, like after the fight, that's the final ending, that's how it's going to be, or it's one of the multiple versions you're testing, or it's just a placeholder because the Water of Life scene requires visual effects and it wasn't ready. But let's say that it was that this is going to be the ending. So we end with the fight between Paul and Jameis, and then afterwards, as was mentioned, there's a last line with Chani that she says something like, "This is just the beginning." What do you think about that ending? Do you think it's how do you think casual moviegoers will react to that one?
I don't think a casual moviegoer may not know what's ahead of them. So I think a big victory, Sitch Tabor taking, really getting in back of Paul and, kind of declaring him, they're as one of them, and, a mysterious vision of Chaney saying this is just the beginning. I think that's very enticing. I do. What's really confounded me about this film so far? No guild navigators to speak of. That has come out, that a special effects artist has said there are no guild navigators in this film.
Yeah, maybe they looked at that scene from '84 and
I like that scene. Yeah, what do you think about that, Marcus? No guild navigators.
Yeah, so the way I've been seeing it and looking at all the news that's come up so far, and I don't think this will come as a surprise either, that the viewer mentioned that confirmed basically that neither Emperor Shaddam nor Fade Ralph appear in this first film. So I think that the way they're approaching this is basically, we have a very deep story. There's so much characters. There's a lot going on. That's something that the viewer mentioned as well, that they felt that there was a lot going on. I mean, they weren't lost, but it was a lot of information taken in. So that they're leaving the introduction of some of these characters to the second movie. And I think that also ties back to the idea, if we think about the time skip, actually only a small part of the book happens after the time skip. So it may be that they're going to look in the second film, like introduce the Emperor, introduce Fade, give some background to make sure that the scenes later in the movie really do have impact.
Yeah, they could do like a Godfather 2, skipping back and forth in the second film, where you see the setup and then you see it all fall apart as well. There's plenty they can do there. I think you really bring up a good point there about the audience and the general audience, understanding there's a lot going on, but there's not too much going on. And that's a really great balance that Villeneuve took with the film to really break it up. It shed a new light on that at all. I didn't realize that Emperor Carino was not in was not in the first film at all. But it makes total sense. Now, Rod and I had predicted years ago, actually, that Fade would not be in this film. That the villain of the first film would be Beast Raban, and the villain of the second film clearly would be Fade. And it's set up so beautifully. You have these two brothers, and it's like, you get to the boss of the first stage, and then you get the boss of the second stage. So it's just kind of tailor made for that. But I think that comes as a surprise for people, but it shouldn't, right? I think that makes a lot of sense in making a film. It brings, I think the test screenings really do shed more light on the strategy for the film and how to actually convey this very dense movie on screen in a way that we've never seen before.
Yeah, and one of the last things I wanted to mention, the viewer really praised the score, and that also came in on the reviews from Letterboxd. So basically, we had one viewer who was talking in detail, but then these other people left reviews, and multiple mentions were about Hans Zimmer's score and how it was perfect, like really impressed, Middle Eastern influences, alien sound, so really atmospheric. And it was interesting that they mentioned that the score had leitmotifs, and that made me remember what was mentioned by the art director, Tom Brown, about how they had developed all the sets based on the characteristics of the houses. So I'm just picturing in my mind, like how memorable these scenes are going to be. Like you're going to be on Caladan and you're going to recognize, okay, this is the House Atreides place, and you'll probably hear the House Atreides theme. So I'm just really looking forward to experience that. What do you think about what was shared about the score and the sets?
Well, I think that's a very smart way to tell a very intricate story. Leitmotifs are a fantastic way to situate a viewer in a certain place, in a certain time, and with certain characters to really bring up ideas almost subliminally, and really help the audience lead them through a plot that may be complex. So with a cast of dozens and with many different shifting factions, I think that leitmotifs are something that the Lynch score really did not nail, and I think that's one of the failings of the actual score itself. Although it is it's beloved, but at the same time I do see that as a flaw. And one of the reasons why Star Wars is so instantly recognizable was the use of John Williams leitmotifs for literally every character, and sometimes scenarios as well. There's a theme for the Force, so to speak. There's a theme for Han and Leia being in love. I mean, there are leitmotifs all over that trilogy of the 80s. So I think when we think about Dune, it is a tailor-made story to approach from a classical. You look at this a very Wagnerian way to approach the score, and the use of leitmotifs only emphasize that, and I think that's a brilliant idea from Hans Zimmer. Awesome. All right, Marcus, thank you so much for being on the Dunecast here. Really appreciate all the insight and news and knowledge you have to share with us. Where can listeners find you on the internet, and where can they check out Dune News Net?
Yeah, so our site is dunenewsnet.com. So you can search for us there, and we have an active Twitter account, Dune News Net. So we're always happy to engage with fans, and our motivation is really to bring the latest news and encourage new fans to check out these great stories.
That's awesome, Rob. What do you think about this? Any thoughts on this last news before we hit the music?
No, I've been pretty excited, Marcus. Thanks for coming on and sharing with us about the test screenings and some of the news, and appreciate having you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you both. Yeah.
Wow, this has been exciting. So much news is going on right now, and it's so exciting to see everything that's happening in the Dune universe with this new shift to streaming, and people have seen this film already. They've already seen it. They already know what it's going to be, and I just got all the thanks in the world to Marcus for coming on and giving us the news straight from the source, Dune News Net. Rod, what are your final thoughts on everything we talked about tonight?
I mean, it's hard not to be excited about everything going on. I was worried I was going to have to travel to watch the movie, and now I found out I can just watch it at home. So have to next time I go to when I'm able to go back to work, I'm gonna have to go in there and schedule that day off work, maybe 2.
Yeah, you rest up, my friend. You get better. And you know something? Guys, when we find out more about when Dune is going to be streaming on HBO Max, we're going to have a party. We're going to have a streaming party. Everyone's invited. We're going to have a good old blast. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. We'll talk to you next time.